Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
And good evening. This is Peter Robbins coming to you by audio only tonight. Your intrepid host has been struggling technically with my wonderful producers, and I'm so sorry for the delay. We're only 19 minutes late due to the mysteries of computer technology. But it is great to be back on and to have one of my favorite people as my very first guest, Kathleen Marden. Kathleen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to be with you again.
Now, my first question is, would you like to switch where we are? So you are here in the Northeast and it's cold and there's snow on the ground, and I'm in Florida?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I thought we were friends.
For a reason.
Of course, I had many clever and witty things to say, but we're 20 minutes late, so I'm just going to have to remind you all that for another week, I may be able to get by as telling you that I do bear a striking resemblance to Cary Grant, and I can push that for one more week at least. Kathleen, I'm just going to... Your bio is extraordinary, and I'm just going to read it as it's written. Since 1990, Kathleen Marden has been a respected investigator of UFO abduction and contact with non-human intelligence. She is a published author, a featured on-camera commentator, and an international lecturer. Kathleen earned a BA degree in social work and worked as an educator and education services coordinator while attending graduate school. She is a practitioner of regression hypnosis and the quantum healing hypnosis technique. Her interest in UFOs and contact began in 1961 when her aunt and uncle, Betty and Barney Hill, had a close encounter and subsequent abduction in New Hampshire's White Mountains. Kathleen has been the Mutual UFO Network's, better known as MUFON's, Experiencer Research Team's director since 2011. Her group of 30 specialists offer support, non-judgmental listening, and referrals to experiencers. She is an advisory board member and consultant to the Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Encounters, also better known by the acronym FREE. Kathleen is co-author of Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience, Science Was Wrong, and Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers, all with nuclear physicist, scientific ufologist, the late Stanton T. Friedman, with whom she worked closely for nearly 14 years. Her book, The Alien Abduction Files, with co-author Denise Stoner, offers in-depth coverage on 2 of her major cases and 4 additional cases that she personally investigated. Her 5th book, Extraterrestrial Contact, What to Do When You've Been Abducted, is a comprehensive guide to UFO abduction. Kathleen is a contributor to FREE's Beyond UFOs, The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence. Her essays have been published in several additional books and magazines. In 2018, she and her experienced research team members, along with Dr. Don C. Dondieri, completed a comprehensive study on 516 experiencers. I should say here that our friend Dr. Dondieri is now a retired professor of psychology at McGill University in Montreal and has been involved in UFO studies for decades. This was Kathleen's third major research study on experiencers. Her 50-page report was published in the MUFON 2018 International Symposium Proceedings. Marden has given on-camera commentary on the Discovery, History, National Geographic, Destination America, and Science and Travel channels, and on a number of other documentaries. She is a guest co-host on Behind the Paranormal with intrepid hosts Paul and Ben Eno, and has lectured at conferences across the United States, as well as in Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and the United Kingdom. Additionally, she has appeared on a video lecture series for experiencers in China. Her books are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Autographed copies can be obtained from her on her personal website, and I'll give that URL later. Kathy, I want to start in a way that, because this is my first show with a guest, that I imagine will not be standard, but I think is wonderful. I think you were just terrific in responding to a suggestion I made that we might want to start with some family photos and other photos before we go on to the major questioning. So with that, Amanda, would you bring up the first image? And Kathy, as we go, you can just say to Amanda next, and I may have a question for you or two or not. I love this picture with your mom and aunt. And is that your aunt puffing away there?
Yes, that's my Aunt Betty puffing away.
Where was this taken, and what's the dog's name?
It was taken in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I believe I must have been about a year old there, and therefore I do not remember the dog's name.
Very good. Next, Amanda. Oh, gosh.
I must have been about 3 years old, I guess, in that photo.
Wow, what a beautiful portrait.
Oh, thank you. I just remember this. My brothers and I loved to get into the same bed together. And we had our own beds, but
yeah, of course.
I think that was my bed. And the little one in the center is my brother Tom, and on the other side is my brother Glenn. Tom's 5 years younger than I am, and Glenn is 2 years younger. So I was the big sister.
Wow. It's a beautiful picture. Oh, I love this one.
And that's my mother.
Yeah.
On a snowy day in New Hampshire with myself and my brother.
What was your mother's name?
Janet
Wow.
Miller.
She's gorgeous.
She was very pretty.
Yeah.
And very, very smart. She had a genius level IQ.
Wow. Tell us about this.
Valentine's Day queen in the 2nd and 3rd grade. I think this one was maybe from the 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And I have my crown on.
You do.
My grandmother's living room. She wanted to see me. She was very excited that I was the Valentine's Day queen and wanted
okay.
photographs of me. There's my grandfather, Raymond Barrett, and my grandmother, Florence Barrett, Betty's mother and father. And I was very close to them. I was very lucky to live across the street from them when I was a child. And there's nothing better than living near your grandparents. It was a wonderful way to grow up, and they were just wonderful people who did so many things with me.
This was, you grew up in a rural part of New Hampshire. We've traveled there together, and it's just a lovely area. But your grandparents ran a small working farm, didn't they?
They did. They had a poultry farm. They also had 2 milking cows.
Wow.
And they grew a very large garden. They sold to local grocery stores. My grandmother grew gladiolus. She had a huge gladiola garden in the summer and sold the flowers as well. So they were very resourceful people. She also ran a ceramics studio and taught ceramics lessons. In her studio, she made ceramics that were sold in gift shops throughout New Hampshire and Maine. My grandfather had taken my brothers and I to Canopy Lake Park in Salem, New Hampshire, and I was about 13 in that photograph. And I played at one of the arcades over and over again until I finally won that big teddy bear.
Way to go. You look very proud of it as well. It's about how old were you in this picture?
I think I was about 13.
Well, your beautiful blonde hair is gone and you've got a great head of brown hair there.
Yes, kind of it was called dirty blonde in those days.
Ah, okay. Yep. Yep. Indeed. Ah.
There I am again at Niagara Falls. 13 years old. I was there not long before Betty and Barney went. I had my photographs. I loved the trip with another aunt and uncle, Betty's sister June, and my uncle Alex, and my cousin Sherry. And I was showing the photographs to Betty and Barney, who were visiting. And Barney said to Betty, "Have you ever been there?" And she said, "No, I haven't been." He said, "Do you think you'd like to go?" And
oh my gosh.
Yes, I would love to go. So he surprised her with that fateful trip.
Oh, no. Well, that was an uneventful trip, wasn't it? Now I'm looking at this photo. You were 12 or 13 here?
I was 13. Yes.
I could have been against that railing when I was 12. My first trip out of the United States of America, I'm imagining this was yours as well?
Yes, I think so. I'm not positive.
I remember feeling very exotic. The Queen's picture was on the stamps. They used different kinds of money. Mm-hmm. They had funny expressions. They put vinegar on their French fries and didn't call them French fries. It was quite an experience. Next.
There I was. I think I was in the 8th grade, and with my father, Donald Miller.
Yeah.
In my childhood home. Dad was a great guy. He was kind of a unique man in that he and his sister were a dance team when he was growing up, and his mother purchased beautiful costumes for them from Hollywood. And she spent a lot of money for them to take dance lessons. They danced with the USO, and then his grandmother and he were very upset when she got married at age 16, and he ended up going into the Coast Guard during World War II.
Wow.
And then met my mother, and he was 6 years older than her, and they were married, and I was their firstborn.
Oh. Now, I'm judging by this special dress, the fact that you're wearing white gloves and you're carrying a purse. Is this a prom night or something?
I think that might have been my 8th grade graduation. It looks like my pink graduation dress.
Yes, a major one where we used to go from junior high school to high school.
Yes.
Next.
An early picture of Betty and Barney. A lot of people have seen that. I've shown it a lot. This is maybe a wedding picture. They have a suitcase with them. They were married in May of 1960. And I believe that Barney was wearing that brown suit when they took their trip to Niagara Falls and then up to Montreal and back into New Hampshire.
It's a beautiful portrait of them.
Yes. They look very happy.
Yeah. Now, this is an extraordinary moment in your life. As you've shared with me, your uncle and aunt, who in some ways were like almost a extra set of parents. You were very close to them. They were not only very active in the civil rights movement, but also in local progressive politics. And they were invited, and you came as their guest to the inauguration of President Johnson?
That's correct. I received my own invitation as well. I have it. We were very close, and they were excellent role models for me and always involved me in their activities. And I was very fortunate for that. And so as a high school student, I was campaigning for Lyndon Johnson around my high school and with the adults that I knew. And as a reward, they saw that I received an invitation to Lyndon Johnson's inauguration. So Here I am with the New Hampshire delegation, and I am the little short one in the back row, third from the left.
And your uncle and aunt are at the lower right. Do you remember who the inscriptions are from?
One is from Ollie Hewitt, who was a congressman, and the other is Tom McIntyre, who was in the U.S. Senate.
Ah, outstanding. What an experience.
Well, this was my high school graduation, and the photographer you see was from Look magazine, and he was there to take photographs for articles that John Fuller had written and were going to be published in Look magazine.
John Fuller, for anybody who's not aware, is a distinguished author who wrote, at the time, the definitive book on your uncle and aunt's experience, and it still stands as a classic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There I am at Betty and Barney's house with Barney on the left, Betty, myself. I was probably about 19 there. I believe that I was a freshman in college at that time. And there is my grandfather, Raymond Barrett. It must be my grandmother who took the photograph.
Yeah. Great.
And I graduated from college from the University of New Hampshire with a degree in social work and a minor in education, which I ended up not taking. I was focused primarily on sociology and psychology, but took a lot of philosophy courses, philosophy of science and biological science courses as well. And ended up, after college, moving to Cincinnati with my first husband, who was studying for his doctorate in the philosophy of psychiatry. And we had planned for me to go to graduate school when he received his master's degree, which he did. And so I was accepted to the graduate program in school psychology, leading to a PhD in school psychology with a full scholarship and a teaching assistantship. Well, unfortunately, the money did not come through for the assistantship. And it caused a lot of friction between my husband and myself, and we ended up splitting up. There were other things going on as well that I won't get into. But in this picture, I took a trip to Colorado that summer with my friend Mary, and this was us on a hike from Crested Butte, Colorado to Aspen. It was an incredible experience. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Ah.
Years later, here I am, married to my current husband at our wedding, Charles Marden. And my aunt, of course, Betty, is in the middle.
Yep.
And there I am in my white wedding gown.
That's a wonderful photo. Mm-hmm. Yay.
Moving along to 2007, when the first book that I wrote was published. I started writing it in about 1990. I was trained by the Mutual UFO Network to be an investigator. And so I investigated my aunt and uncle's case.
Yes.
Went to all of the locations, drove along the route that they took that night. Actually from Niagara Falls through Canada and down through the route they took, and loads and loads of interviews with Betty as well. She told me that when she had terminal cancer, that if I needed any assistance with my book, that I should contact Stanton Friedman. Because she trusted him implicitly that he would be able to help me and review my work. And so he did. And he contributed 2 chapters to the book and helped me with information on a 3rd chapter. And we had a great relationship. He was a terrific guy. I enjoyed my life working with him. Yeah.
Hey.
There I am with 2 great friends. Peter Robbins, who I said it was great to see him again, and you can see why. And Jennifer Stein, another close friend.
Jennifer is, she is a dear friend and a close colleague of both of ours, a wonderful filmmaker responsible for the outstanding documentary, The True Story of Travis Walton. But Jennifer helped you in getting out, was it a DVD or a CD of the remastering of the hypnotic regression recordings that your aunt and uncle did with Dr. Simon, if I remember correctly?
Yes, I had gone to her house. I was going to do a lecture for her UFO group. And I had with me recordings that I was going to play. Yeah. And I had talked to her about how I wondered, on that recording, I had a comparative analysis that I had done of Betty's and Barney's statements, where I lined up one person's statement and then the next individual, Betty's or Barney's statement. It was part of a comparative analysis that I did to determine whether or not Barney had actually absorbed the information in a series of dreams that Betty had, as many of the skeptics have contended. And so I considered it scientific work, social science, to do this comparative analysis. And I put those recordings on this tape. And Jennifer said, well, what about a CD? I have the ability to do this for you.
Yes.
So I thought that was wonderful news. And so she did.
For anybody that has never heard these recordings, they are by turns poignant, fascinating, absolutely riveting, terrifying, heartbreaking, and quite unforgettable. In the mid-'80s, I had occasion, when I was working in off-Broadway theater management, Kathy, to meet and spend some time with James Earl Jones, who played your uncle in that extraordinary made-for-TV movie with the great Estelle Parsons playing your aunt. It's a very simple film. As you know, the special effects are extremely modest, especially by today's standards. But I think one of the reasons that it could not be released as a major theatrical release, it was too damn scary in terms of Jones, who told me, listening to those tapes and getting into that role was one of the great challenges of his career.
Yes, he did a fantastic job playing Barney.
Yeah. Where can anybody get a copy of that from you, or is it available online anywhere?
The movie that James Earl Jones was in?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The remastering that Jennifer did.
Oh, I think that Bob Terrio had sells on his website.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll post that at some point in the near future. Moving on. Yeah.
And there we are, a couple of years before Stanton's death. We were at Roswell. We lectured there every July and had just a great time in Roswell. Very nice people. It was terrific. And Charlie came along with me. As well sometimes. And Stan taught him everything that he needed to do at a vendor table. And so we had a great time together as well. In the last year that Charlie and Stanton and I were there together, Stanton was the parade marshal. So he sat in the convertible.
And what a parade.
We chauffeured him over to the convertible that he was going to ride the road behind on a float. So it was a great time.
Surprise.
Oh.
That's the one photo I put in. As you know, Stan was a great friend of mine as well, a mentor, a role model, and somebody I love very much and who I miss. I first heard him speak in 1978 as part of the United Nations General Assembly Political Committee, but was too shy to go up to him. We first really connected in 1987 and had been friends since that time. Somebody had asked me at one point, did you guys call each other the night before to coordinate your outfits? And no, it was just a happenstance, honestly. Moving on. Yeah.
There we are with several of the books that we worked on together.
Yeah.
And there I am in Roswell again, this time without him.
With Gort over your shoulder.
Yes.
Great. Well, now that we have had the slide part of your show, of this interview, I really want to start at the beginning. You are a Yankee and your family goes all the way back. When was your first part of your family, in the colonies?
Well, I'd like to talk about both my mother's and my father's side.
Please.
But on my mother's side, it was 1637 when the Dows traveled via ship from England to the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And pretty interesting time, I imagine. So I go back a long way.
I guess. They couldn't get passage on the Mayflower?
I don't think it was the Mayflower, but pretty close.
And your dad's family?
And in my father's family, his first relative was Jacques Leger dit la Rosette, and he came to what is now Nova Scotia in 1693, and he was a drummer with the French army, and was married and lived in Nova Scotia until the clearing they were moved to, well, he died in Nova Scotia, but the younger ones ended up having to go to New Brunswick after the war with France. And then, but my paternal grandfather, was from Scotland, and had come with his family via Northern Ireland into Nova Scotia. And they were very politically involved. And my great, maybe another one, grandfather was called Esquire, involved in politics. My great-grandfather and grandmother moved to Newburyport, Massachusetts in the mid 1870s, I believe it was. They were the only ones who went to the East Coast. The remainder of the family, and it was a large family, they had a lot of children in those days, went to Western Canada. Wow. And moved to Kamloops. One became the mayor of Kamloops. And then family members moved down through California and owned vineyards there.
Mm-hmm. Your childhood, looking at the photos, it seems idyllic for many people, old-fashioned. I know I had the pleasure of spending some time with your late father, when he was, I guess, in his mid-80s, living on his own and reminding me of no one more than my own father, very much in the same situation, and I can't give you a greater compliment. My best sense is that you were instilled with solid values, a sense of proper responsibility. You were part of a community. You were very grounded. It was a loving family. And I'd like to think that as you moved forward in life and had to face some extraordinary challenges, that this really was an anchor, something that helped you when things were bumpier.
I think that's true, Peter. I had a very good upbringing with a lot of love. A lot of relatives, extended family around me, and community as well, who were very loving. I was involved in the 4-H. Yeah. My father was a Boy Scout leader.
Great.
And we were involved in the church. And, it was, my mother taught me, the things that a girl needs to know growing up, how to cook, how to sew, how to clean, how to do laundry, iron, and all those things, and garden. And my father taught me about different professions and different interests, and such as I wanted, first of all, I thought when I was in the 4th grade, I wanted to be a microbiologist. And he taught me a microscope and taught me about that. And then on a little bit later, after my aunt and uncle's experience, I wanted to be an astronomer. And I had met Walter Webb, who was the first investigator of my aunt and uncle's case. Yes. And he was an astronomer at the Hayden Planetarium in Boston and had worked with Dr. Alan Hynek, when he was at the Harvard-Smithsonian Astrophysics Lab. And Hynek was working on the satellite tracking program. And so knowing Walter Webb, meeting him, I became very interested in that. And of course, my aunt and uncle's UFO close encounter. And so I immediately became interested in what was out there beyond our planet. And my father was so helpful to me in purchasing, helping. Walter Webb actually helped him to purchase a telescope for me. We went out and looked at the stars at night. When I had a science project, we built our own little planetarium with many of the constellations. So my father was very bright, knowledgeable as well, and taught me so many things growing up. It was wonderful.
Now, up until you were about 12 years old and you learned of your aunt and uncle's experience, had you had any thoughts or interests in the subject of UFOs, flying saucers, beings on other planets, or not?
No, I had no interest. I had never heard of such a thing until the afternoon of September 20th, 1961.
Yes.
When Betty phoned my mother.
Now, this for me obviously is a paradigm shifting moment in your life. You were having breakfast before you left for school at the time. Set the scene for us.
No, I had returned home from school.
Okay.
For the afternoon, and sat down at the dining room table. I remember distinctly, it was such an eventful day for me,
yes,
emotionally as well.
Yes.
My mother had the ironing board set up, and she had been ironing my father's work pants, and she was on the phone with my Aunt Betty. And so I was listening to what my mother said. And then when my mother hung up the phone, she said that, Betty wanted her to call our neighbor, who was a physicist. And so she was waiting for him to arrive home from work so that she could ask him some questions, because Betty was so concerned about the craft they had seen, that it was so close to their car and to Barney when he walked into the field, that they were afraid that they might have been exposed to radiation. So that's what happened. And my mother hung up the phone, and she said to me that she had a UFO sighting a few years earlier. And I was absolutely shocked, because she had never spoken of it to me. And I later found out that she'd told Betty and Barney and my grandparents. But that's not something that you want to make public, and probably not something you'd want to tell your children if in that time frame too, because they might make it public.
Yeah.
So, but she had been going grocery shopping on a Friday night. She did that every Friday night. My father would stay home with us, and he'd give us art lessons. He was a wonderful artist. My maternal grandmother, the French lady, was an artist. And so he taught us art, and he taught us how to mix color and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Friday nights while my mother went grocery shopping. And she and another aunt who was shopping with her saw a huge, what I'd think of as a mothership, hovering over a field. And they stopped the car. They got out of the car and went to a house. They knew the people who lived there. And everyone left the house and went out. And they saw the craft too.
Hold that thought right there. We're about to go to break. We are speaking with Kathleen Marden on Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA, and we'll return in a few short minutes.
Intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go. Oh. Hey, Dad.
You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, the KGRADB.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRARadio.com.
And welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth. Again, my apologies for us going up so late. My thanks to Race Hobbs, our amazing producer, to Amanda in the background there working the visuals, and to Bill Skywatcher, our other producer, who helped me through to getting on the air, at least in the audio sense. Kathleen, we left off at a rather boring, mundane moment in your life. Would you like to pick it up from there?
Yes, I was talking about my mother's first UFO sighting and how she and my aunt stopped the car and went to a neighbor's house that they were friendly with. And everyone left the house and they went out. They saw a mothership hovering over a field, and they saw a small disc-shaped craft flying around and entering into the larger craft. So I heard about that for the first time on the afternoon of September 1961, when my mother had hung up the phone after speaking with my Aunt Betty.
I am trying to imagine that, which I think would be as challenging a moment as any young person could have in their life. Backtracking a bit, you grew up in what was probably in the early 60s, the late 50s, a very white part of the United States. And you had an uncle who was not white. Do you remember whether there was any aspect of that was odd to you, or that was called to your attention by other children, or you just grew up with a sense that this is my Uncle Barney, I love him, and what else is new?
I grew up colorblind. I grew up with an Aunt Betty Hill who, back then Betty Stewart, who had black friends. She loved people of all races, and no problem with that. So she would bring Sarah down to the house to visit, childhood home. Sarah was a close friend of hers, and Betty was friendly with Sarah's parents as well. Sarah's a little bit older than I am. And so it was just not anything that was a big deal to me.
Just the way it should be.
Yeah.
And it's funny the things we realize after the fact that were extraordinary gifts to us. Jumping ahead a bit, in 1965, 4 years after your aunt and uncle had their now world-famous experience, this story became public. It was not their wish, but it did become public. Was it in Look or Life magazine that Mr. Fuller published his piece on them?
Well, he was not the one who made their story public as the result of a violation of confidentiality. Let me say that. It was John Luttrell, who was a writer for the Boston Traveler.
Got it.
And then after the story went public, there was a great deal of public interest.
Sure. And
Betty and Barney were asked by John Fuller, who was in Exeter, writing the book, The Incident at Exeter,
Great book.
About the Norman Mascarillo and two police officers who had a close encounter with a UFO. And so John Fuller had actually gone to my childhood home to interview my mother about her sighting. And so that is when I met him for the first time. But then I think Betty said that she met him in the police station in Exeter because she was a social worker for the state of New Hampshire. And she would stop by the police station to see how things were going with, maybe the parents of the children that she was in charge of, and that sort of thing. And John Fuller was in there, interviewing the police as well. And so she met him for the first time there, but then he went to the first lecture that they ever gave on their sighting. And this was in November of 1965, after the story broke in the Boston Traveler. And they were, by the way, introduced to an overflow crowd by the public information officer from Pease Air Force Base.
Perfect.
Yes, I really love that part of it. And John Fuller was in the church, as were Ben Sweat, who I talked about, who was a hypnotist and also an Air Force officer. I had the opportunity to meet him when I was traveling to do a television show with a production team from Canada. And I got to interview him, and he retired as a full colonel from the Pentagon. But back then he was at Pease Air Force Base and friendly with Betty and Barney, and they had asked him about hypnosis. But he was an amateur hypnotist. He said to them, what you need to do is see someone who is a psychiatrist or a psychologist who is competent. He said that he saw Barney's face twitch as he talked a little bit about what happened to him, and he said, "No, I don't want to touch that one."
Poor guy.
I know, it was so difficult for Barney, so difficult for him, the emotional trauma that he went through over this sighting that he had convinced himself prior to that was an impossibility.
Exactly. Denial it's overwhelmingly powerful. We both know it, lives and work. Did you have any awareness at all in those years between 61 and 65 when your uncle and aunt became public figures about their work with Dr. Simon?
Oh, yes. I knew everything about my aunt and uncle. We were very close.
Yeah.
And so I knew when they were looking for a hypnotist and when they finally found one.
Yeah.
And they would stop by to visit on the way home from Dr. Simon's office. He was in Boston, and he was in the Back Bay. And our house was on the way. And so we'd all sit around as a family. Of course, for most of their sessions, they couldn't remember what they had said under hypnosis. But it became very interesting when they would visit, when Dr. Simon was starting to allow them to listen to their tapes and discuss what each other had said. And they would come home and to my home, my grandparents' home, and we'd talk about what they recalled.
Gosh. I'm very proud to say, I hope a growing number of listeners, not only old hands and serious long-time students of such subjects, but who are new to this subject. Dr. Simon was a pioneering psychiatrist and one of the first people to use regressive hypnosis working with returned World War II veterans who were suffering from post-traumatic stress, what was called shell shock or other things. And I think he really was the perfect person for your aunt and uncle to be working with. Now, a time came when you were about 19 years old, when your aunt and uncle invited you to visit a certain location. At that time, you met for the first time Dr. Alan J. Hynek, who arguably was and remained until his death, I think in the 90s, the best known, most highly recognized personality in the UFO field, in the world. In fact, for those folks who are not familiar with him, toward the end of his life, he was so well known in his role that he played a cameo of himself in one of the end climactic scenes in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But will you set the scene and what happened in the next room while you were there?
Yes, absolutely. We all sat around a big table together. I remember it was a dark color, maybe cherry or mahogany. I don't know, but it was a big rectangular table, and Mrs. Simon served us roast beef and what we call Yorkshire pudding. But Stanton said to me, well, there has to be another word for it. It wasn't Yorkshire pudding to, Jewish family. And we finally, I explained it to him and he said, oh, that's a popover.
Well, if he said it, that's it. Continuing on.
I remember so clearly that part of it and sitting with Betty and Barney, and Dr. Hynek was across from me on the right, and John Fuller was across from me on the left. Mr. and Mrs. Simon were on each end of the table. Yeah. So we had a delightful dinner, and then Dr. Simon and Mrs. Simon led me out of the room. Mrs. Simon stayed with me. She was kind of cleaning up the kitchen maybe a little bit.
Sure.
I was seated and waited for, it seemed an awfully long time while Dr. Simon was playing bombastic music, so I couldn't hear a thing. And years later, I learned that he had hypnotized Betty and Barney together for the first time. There's actually a photograph that's pretty popular of the two of them sitting together in hypnosis. And what happened was Dr. Simon was, or Dr. Hynek was able to ask questions.
Oh, my.
John Fuller, too. And and Dr. Simon had them lined up where they were reliving this experience together, saying the things they said to one another. And then it came to the point where I think it must have been where the car had stalled, but I'm not positive. But I know that Barney stood up and started to run. And then his feet went out from underneath him. I found that out years later.
Oh my gosh.
It was as if when those entities had taken control of him and had a hand under each of his arms escorting him, and he felt like he was floating. But he felt that only the toes of his shoes were bumping along the rock.
Yes. That extraordinary memory of that they were good shoes. And how did this happen? That the front of the shoes got so scuffed up they were now just, work shoes or whatever. To the best of your knowledge, this was a one-time unique experience. It was their very first time of being hypnotized together, and with that distinguished team of people putting forward questions. Do you remember anything about how they were when they came out of the room? You had no idea what was going on in there.
No, I didn't. And I think when they came and I was allowed to go back with them, it was probably about the time that we were ready to leave.
Sure.
Back to New Hampshire.
Yeah, and they weren't going to betray whatever they had gone through with you at that time. Let me take you to another time as I recall, about the same time in your life. And for me, when we talk about, or we talk to, or we study, the word extraordinary for people who have been taken or had close contact experiences, the English language is really not equipped to describe or characterize these things. But I'm thinking about you and your mother at a time when you recalled that you had experiences, and your mother not only confirmed, but she added something. And I've been just trying to imagine what it would have been like to be you and hear your mother tell you what she told you at that time.
Yes. Well, I think that probably the first time this happened was when my aunt had agreed to do a series of CE5 experiments to try to call in a craft. She was working with a team of scientists led by C.D. Jackson and Robert Homan, who worked for IBM. Mm-hmm. And so they Robert Homan gave Betty a script that she was to read, and she was to instruct, telepathically, I guess, these non-human entities to land somewhere or show themselves somewhere. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, it was to land on my grandparents' farm. And there were 2 landings that I'm aware of. So I'm not entirely certain which one it was. But I do know that my grandmother was a witness to both of these. And a neighbor who was a commercial pilot was a witness to one of them. And I do recall being terrified that I found myself on a craft. I was lying on a table, and there were figures around me that I never knew. I couldn't see what they looked like, or I couldn't remember. And finally, years later, I remembered precisely what they looked like.
Yes.
In an abreaction when I was attempting to work through the trauma that I had experienced as a result of this experience and a few others as well. And my mother remembered it as well and filled in memories. And Dr. James Harder from the University of California at Berkeley was a civil engineer, but he taught there, and he also was the chief investigator, head of investigations for APRO.
Yes.
Aerial Phenomena Research Organization. And he took a serious interest in my aunt's case. My uncle had died at that point. He died in 1969 at age 46.
Gosh.
So Jim Harder would come out to New Hampshire, and sometimes I would be home on vacation when he was there. And later on, he visited my home when he came out, when I moved back to New Hampshire. And he hypnotized me, and he also hypnotized my mother, my grandmother, who worked with the family because he was very interested in generational abductions.
Well, he was a pioneer in that.
He absolutely was. And so we had these experiences, and he did what he could to help us initially in recovering these memories.
Yeah. Now, Kathleen, did your grandmother have any memories?
I was told by my mother, I believe it was, that she did, and that during the daytime, at one time, a craft had landed behind her house.
Yes.
and that she hid. Of course, nobody knew that hiding did no good whatsoever. But I do believe that she probably was.
Yeah. One brief follow-up question. When you say that your mother helped you fill in the picture, very specifically, though, she told you that she remembered being on a craft with you.
Yes, she did remember being there with me.
Do you remember that moment and how you felt in that moment? Because for me, since you told me that, the question has kept coming back in my mind. Again, you can see face to face with a being from another dimension or whatever, but when your mother shares something this intimate, this shocking, and this absolute with you, that has to be one of those moments where, for me, I call them personal BCAD moments, the things we measure our lives back and forwards from. Is that moment very fixed in your mind, and you remember how you felt when she told you that?
I remember that it was confirmation that it wasn't a dream.
Yeah.
And, but for years, it really caused me to believe that my mother was working with them, because my mother, I remembered always seeing my mother on that craft, but she didn't save me. I always thought, the mother is supposed to save their child.
Of course. How many?
I forgave her. The more I learned, the more I knew that she couldn't have saved me if she tried. But that's the way I felt initially.
I think back on all the years that I had the privilege of working as assistant to Bud Hopkins. If that name doesn't ring a bell for some of our audience members, Bud was arguably the real father of the scientific study of the abduction phenomena, and we were friends for 35 years, and I worked with him for about half of that time. The reason I bring it up is because I can't even remember how many times working with people over the years that part of their core memories, and these things affected their family life dramatically, were, but my father or mother didn't save me. They stood still. I screamed for them to help or acknowledge the situation. And later on, often we learn, I'm sure you've had the same experience of interviewing parents who go through the rest of their life to a degree riddled with guilt that they were unable to impact this moment at all. Very poignant. You knew enough at that point to absolutely understand, we live in this culture, although as we know things have begun to change dramatically in the last few years, that culture of ridicule attached to the subject at hand. And to even just say that you take the possibilities of visitations from parts unknown by intelligences, you would be ridiculed for it in the culture. So I'm assuming that this is something that you simply did not talk about with anyone outside of your family circle and the few professionals that you had come in contact with.
Absolutely.
When and how and why did that begin to change for you?
It was only a few years ago, and I was on the stage in a panel discussion. Whitley Strieber was there, and another a group of experiencers.
Yes.
And I was on that stage, and everyone was talking about their own experiences, and everyone thought that I was just an investigator and had never had experiences. And I decided, it's time. Maybe I should come clean and tell the truth. And, for years I hated it when I had to lie when people asked me that. And I'd say, no, I'd try to skirt around it. Well, I've had a close encounter. I've seen a craft up close.
Of course.
I would kind of not address that issue. And I, there were people who had come up to me when I was working at conferences who were psychics and would say to me, you really ought to admit that you're an experiencer because you would help so many people. But I remembered the ridicule that my aunt and uncle faced,
of course,
when they went public. And my mother never went public for that reason, too.
Good.
But I finally reached the point, I was up there on the stage and sitting next to Whitley, and I decided to tell the truth. And it was a great relief, I have to tell you.
Was that reflected in an audience reaction?
I think so.
I ask because not long after that, we were working at the same conference, the terrific Experiencers Speak Conference, which we hope will be revived at some time in Portland, Maine. And you decided you were going to reiterate that. And nobody in the audience, save for a few close friends that you had confided to over the period beforehand, was aware of it. And you just got up there and early on in your talk, you just did it. And you may not remember, but I remember you got a standing ovation. It was almost a historic moment for an audience like that, where there were so many people who had experiences. And not only did you have the courage to talk about your own, but in doing so, help to validate theirs for them.
Mm-hmm. And that's so important. And that's really the reason why I came forward, not to talk about myself. I don't often talk about my own experiences.
Sure.
But, the focus has been to let people know that I know what they've been through. I know what they're going through. I have greater insight than I would have if I were only an investigator and researcher. And I think that's very important.
Yeah. I only met your aunt once, but she is indelible in my mind. She was not somebody you could easily forget. I was giving a talk for New Hampshire MUFON, and I was outside taking a break, and I was a smoker at the time and puffing away, and she comes walking toward me and like, I know who you are, You got a cigarette for an old lady? Take the pack, and chatting a bit. But later in life, after she lost Barney and her health started to deteriorate, you basically took over and were with her to the end, caregiver, ultimately trustee of her estate. I can only imagine after a lifetime of, having such a loving relationship with such a courageous woman who happened to be your aunt. Were there any things that you'd like to share with us about that last year or so that she imparted to you, or that you carry forward in your own work in terms of your attitude or your view of this whole subject in general, or your take on why people react to it the way they do?
Well, in the last year, we really had the opportunity to sit down and discuss many, many things. Hospice would come to the house too, and the chaplain from hospice, and we often talked together. And there are so many things that I asked in that time frame.
Good.
Just little details that. And there are others that I go, darn, I wish I had.
Of course.
But didn't at the time. But, it was a time where it was my turn to take care of her. She had taken care of me. If it had not been for her, I wouldn't have been able to go to college. She helped me out financially. She is the person who brought the application to me and said, you're going to go. You're smart. You need to go to college.
Beautiful.
The application, fill it out. And she did so many things for me. When Barney died, I was in college and I went to live with Betty and for a couple of years and drove actually Barney's station wagon to the University of New Hampshire that was maybe about 8 or 10 miles away. She and I had the opportunity to hold one another and express our feelings of love, and how she always thought of me as another child of hers.
Yes.
I always thought of her as a second mother.
No. You were both so fortunate in that respect.
We were. It was good. It was difficult to see the pain that she was experiencing with cancer that first started out many years ago as stomach cancer, then metastasized to other parts of her body, finally ending up with lung cancer on the right side, the upper lung, and just the great difficulty that she had as she became more and more paralyzed. Her arm became paralyzed, and then her legs. And she developed, she had had a brain tumor for a number of years, which had gotten to the point where she had begun to hallucinate. Sometimes became fearful. It was horrible. The brain tumor was fingered out. It was cancerous, fingered out through her brain. And just to watch that very wonderful, highly intelligent, well-read, powerful woman decline was, about trauma. It was so difficult. And to see her suffer and not be able to help with that until hospice came to her house and gave her a morphine drip.
Exactly.
And her pain went away. And they were so wonderful and loving and caring, and told her the truth. Told her the truth when the oncologists would not. And in fact, we had a good friend who was a medical doctor who worked for a pharmaceutical company, and he lived in Florida, but he would come to New Hampshire on business, and he would always come to visit.
Beautiful.
And he and Betty were very good friends. He would take her out to dinner. He took Charlie and I and Betty out to dinner sometimes. So I really enjoyed him. And when Betty was dying, in this, over several months, he would come to the house, and she had an experience that was incredible, in that she was really declining. Her eyes were kind of glassed over and dull. We thought that the end was coming. And her daughter was out from Arkansas staying with her. And so I had the opportunity to go home nights and be with my husband. And I would go back at 8:00 in the morning. I walked in one morning, and always her daughter Connie was dressed. Betty was dressed. They'd already had breakfast. Everything was opened up for the day. And on this particular morning, the door was open, but the shades were all drawn. And I went in, and Betty was, at that point, she couldn't lie flat. She had to sit up on the living room sofa with her legs up to sleep. It was before hospice brought the hospital bed for her. And I went in that morning. She had fallen. She had insisted to Connie that she was capable of walking on her own with a walker, and with her two hands, one of them paralyzed. And Betty could be very strong. And Connie said, "Okay, I will watch you. I'll catch you." Well, she couldn't catch her when she went down, and she'd broken her arm in places.
Damn.
And she was wearing kind of a flexible cast.
Yeah.
With an ace bandage wrapped around it. And when I walked in that morning, that cast was on a chair across the room, at least 12 feet away. And the ace bandage was folded up and placed on that chair. And that's the way it was when Connie woke up that morning. They were both dressed in their night clothes still. They hadn't eaten.
Yeah.
They'd slept incredibly late. And Betty's eyes were bright and sparkling and shining.
Oh my gosh.
And her health began to improve. And her cat, Raisa, who was always on Betty's lap or by her side on the sofa, wouldn't go near Betty. Hiding in the bedroom under that bed that Betty could no longer sleep in. And when she had to leave that bedroom, she looked very nervously at Betty, and she skirted the perimeter of the room and went out to the porch where her kitty litter box and her food was. And something happened that night. I'm convinced that something happened. There was a visitation. I think that they tried to do a healing on Betty, but maybe the cancer had just progressed through her body so much that they couldn't.
Well, some aspect of it took, and as we know, animal reactions in paranormal events, UFO involved or otherwise, can be extraordinarily dramatic. It certainly sounds like some of the effects of whatever they attempted to do, if in fact that's what happened, took, because there she was in a very different state.
And I recorded this, and the medical doctor who came to visit Betty recorded this too as time went on. And hospice did as well. Hospice came in and they recorded it, the change in her. But eventually she did decline again. But she was good for at least a couple of weeks, maybe longer, before she started to decline.
You know, I think, although it has nothing to do with the subject that we're here to discuss, it's very important, and it has to do with this extraordinarily wonderful service provided around this country, other countries, some places few and far between, but hospice. We have a wonderful one here in Ithaca, New York, and when my dad's health started to go into real decline, and as we used to joke in the family, he was tragically snatched from us at 98 years and 7 months. And fully compass mentis up until really right before the end. The hospice team were just the best. And I just can't say enough about them, and I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but he got to die at home on his own terms, with my being able to assist him, my sister Ann as well. And I know that you know, for all of the heartache that you go through, that you're not able to kill the pain, make them feel better. It's a privilege that's hard to describe, to assist somebody out the door, so to say, toward the end of their life, who has done that for you at an earlier point in your life. I found it one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, and one of the toughest, but God rest her wonderful soul, and that of your uncles as well. The work that we do, and the cadre of people that we're surrounded by, the colleagues that we make, the folks who may start as fans of your work but become friendly acquaintances, many of them friends, the people that you work with, or you and Denise Stoner in your work in Florida. Sometimes I think we forget, especially if we're kind of at the center of the eye of the hurricane as we are, that we represent an extraordinarily small percentage of the population at large. And there are so many people who are open-minded, intelligent, thoughtful, compassionate, good imaginations who are still telling themselves, it seems like a perfectly nice, rational woman, and, the host seems fairly grounded. But of course, this doesn't happen. It can't be, therefore it isn't, therefore it's something else, my debunker's mantra. And it may be, this kind of psychological aberration overlaid on this with a history and a predisposition. But no, other intelligences from parts unknown, repeatedly, countless times, come here, take human beings, float them through walls, ceilings, windows, examine them, bring them back. We have hybrid phenomenons. Where do we in the work, where do we even start to begin to assist, our brothers and sisters, our friends and neighbors, our fellow citizens in beginning to wrap their head around the fact that this is real, that it is happening, that it is as important as anything that you're going to live through in your life, and it's not out of the question that in our lives it will hit the fan, and it will be undeniable, and it may be a rougher couple of weeks for them than it is for us. Long question and a meandering one, but where do we even start? How do we, I do my best to just be myself and try to lay it out, and if people are interested, give them sources that I find are credible, take it one step at a time, understand their anxiety. And you?
I do not start with contact.
Good idea.
Not at all.
Sightings are good. Trace cases.
To the history of government involvement in the investigation of UFOs and the evidence. If I'm doing a presentation for that type of audience, it's more, like the type that Stanton Friedman used to do. UFOs are real, and here's the evidence. And so you go back through the evidence that has been photographed and over the years, the evidence that has been analyzed in scientific laboratories, and you present that. And now we have, of course, even more with the ATIP program and the 3 videos taken by the Navy, and finally the Navy coming out and saying, yes, it is our video. So we're moving along, and so I like to bring people up to the present day and tell them where to go to see the videos of the Tic Tac, for example.
Yeah. And this leads right into the next question I was going to ask, which is that many people understandably assume that, okay, this person has given you this account, they're very passionate about it, another person has backed them up on it, but it's all anecdotal. Maybe they're fooling you. Maybe they have some angle to play. That many folks do not realize that many hard cases, abductions, full landings, that kind of thing, are backed up by the kinds and qualities of evidence that you could literally bring into a court of law in a major felony trial and convict somebody on if courts of law adjudicated such things. And your aunt and uncles, case is such a dispassionate word, but their experience, the associated physical evidences with it, were really in that category. Can you describe some of that, because you inherited it and then you did something extraordinary in terms of making it available to the public, but some of the evidence involved in the Hill case?
Well, when Betty and Barney returned home, her dress was torn in several places. At the top of her zipper, the stitching was torn 2 inches, an inch on the thick zipper fabric. The hem was torn down on one side, and the lining was torn from waist to hemline. She realized she had to repair it before wear it again, but she just forgot about it. And when she and Barney arrived home, they had memories of what had happened, but those memories faded too. I'm talking about on the craft.
Yes.
They had those memories, she told me. But, and they faded. So she forgot about that dress. But the next time she took it out of her closet, it was covered with a pink powdery substance.
Right.
And that dress has been analyzed in, probably 7 laboratories.
Yeah.
At this point, with some remarkable findings. I'm coming out in April with the second edition of Captured, and it's been updated.
Oh, good.
And I've written about the scientific evidence that has been analyzed and the scientific studies that have been done since Captured was published in 2007. And I'm convinced that if you read this second edition, there is no way you will be able to deny that this occurred. But the dress was a big piece of evidence. The star map was a big piece of evidence too.
Talk about the star map a bit, because again, it's new to some people. The great Marjorie Fish, who did not have a scientific background, and Stanton's confirmation and other scientists.
Well, Betty, let me go back to what happened on the craft.
Yes.
Betty had come to have good feelings about the one that she called the leader, because when the examiner had plunged a needle into her navel and caused great pain, the examiner took the pain away.
Yes.
And so the examiner left the room to examine Barney, and she was left with the leader. And she said to him, I know you're not from around here. Where's your home port? And he produced from a hole in the wall a star map, and it looked 3-dimensional, as if she were looking out a window at stars of various sizes and colors. And there were lines that she understood were some in 2 large stars in the foreground, were about the size of nickels or quarters. They were connected by several solid lines.
Right.
And there were some other stars connected by solid lines as well. But then there were stars that were connected by dotted lines. And she was made to understand that they were expeditions. And so she said to the leader, where are you on that map? I don't know much about the universe, she said. And he said, well, do you know where you are? And she said, no, I don't. And he said, if you don't know where you are, how can I tell you where I am? Which was, kind of deceptive in a way, I think. But that's the way she understood him telepathically. And then he made the map go away. But under hypnosis with Dr. Simon, he told Betty, he gave her a post-hypnotic suggestion to go home and draw that map if she could remember it accurately.
Yes.
And if it didn't bother her too much. And she did go home. She sketched that map. And it was published in John Fuller's book.
Yes.
Published in 1966, The Interrupted Journey.
Yeah.
And it's also in my book with Stanton, Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience. But so Marjorie Fish saw the map in John Fuller's book. And Marjorie was a member of APRO.
Yes.
She did have a scientific background in the social sciences and biological sciences.
Yes.
And actually, she was teaching school at the time, but she became a research assistant at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory later. She decided to stop teaching and did that. But she was an amateur astronomer. She was also a member of Mensa, meaning that she was brilliant.
Yes.
And she was very methodical and patient. She thought that possibly existed somewhere in our galaxy. But she thought she would find many matches for it. So she started to go to the university, and she wasn't able to take the astronomical catalogs home because there were no computers then. And so she had to sit for hours and hand copy all of the characteristics of the stars 54 light years out from the sun.
Yes.
And then she would go home. She used three-dimensional models of a frame, of monofilament line, and beads of various colors and sizes to represent the various stars. She had to do the math to know exactly where to place every one of those stars in the local galactic neighborhood out 54 light years. And you can imagine how frustrating it had to have been when 14 models later, she still didn't have a match. And she also had the problem where she had a cat, and her cat once in a while got into the room with the models and batted the beads around. And so she had a tangled mess to take care of at the same time. And finally, she decided to go back to the university several years later. This was in late 1971, 1972. And there was a new catalog that had been published, a new Gliese catalog with new distance data. As our technology advanced, we were able to acquire new distance data on the stars. And so she went back, she recalculated, and she placed the stars in their place on the map where they would have been with distance data dating back to 1971. And lo and behold, she finally had a match.
Gosh.
Which was amazing. But not only that, those stars had special properties. They were all sun-like stars. All of the stars connected by solid lines. Sun-like stars. Although only 5% of the stars in that portion of our galactic neighborhood are sun-like. Yet every sun-like star in that portion of our galaxy was on Betty's map. So that was quite extraordinary. Yeah. Additionally, the astronomers who looked at that and studied that discovered that they would make those choices to go to those star systems if they were traveling from Zeta Reticuli toward the sun and our solar system. There were some extraordinary things that were just could not have been coincidences.
Yeah. You know, in part because of the late start that we had, and because time flies with you, we actually have to go off air about 5 minutes early. So we're into our last 4 minutes right now. I hope that you'll consider coming back as a guest in future, because in a way, we're only getting started. The work that we do, the work that you do, for many people may seem, very exciting and exotic and fascinating, of course, but it is difficult, challenging, extremely rigorous work. Any thoughts that you'd like to share with any individuals, especially younger people, and especially young women who might want to consider doing what you do, either as an avocation or take a shot at doing it, full time?
Well, the important thing to do is to have a good background in physical science and also in social science, because that was the great thing about working with Stanton, who was a physicist, that he had the good, solid physical science part of it, and I had the social science part of it. So we made a great team in putting our minds together. on that. You have to be patient. You have to know that you're not going to make a lot of money in it.
Yes, without question.
So you have to absolutely love what you do. And if you do, it will all be worth it. But you have to start out reading books.
Indeed.
And books by Alan Hynek. Read books by Jacques Vallée, by some of the early people in that field, Stanton Friedman, and move on up and make sure that those books have footnotes and a good bibliography that will tell you where else to look for books that are highly credible.
Yeah.
If you can, go to National Archives. That came along with me as well, but it was years after I began my search where I started to visit archival collections to do the research that mostly what I used in the book Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers, the history of government involvement in all of this. And there's a tremendous amount of information out there, and also through sites on the internet, some reliable sites. And I have to say, there are a lot of sites that are not reliable. There's a lot on YouTube that is not reliable.
Yeah.
So you have to consider your source. I have a bibliography that I have written for members of my team at the Mutual UFO Network, so that if individuals apply to be on the team, I always want to know that they are well read in this field, that they've done investigations in this field, because I wouldn't want an amateur on the team.
Yes.
And
we're going to have to hold it there because we're coming into our last minute. Everybody should visit Kathleen's website. It is Kathleen-Marden.com. The books that are available from her are Captured, The Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience, Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers, The Alien Abduction Files, and Extraterrestrial Contact, What to Do When You've Been Abducted. Next week's guest, Robert Salas, served 7 years on active duty before separating from the Air Force in 1971. While on active duty, he worked as, among other things, a weapons controller, as in the nuclear weapons area, and commanded intercontinental ballistic missiles as a launch officer. It was in this capacity that he was directly involved in a shocking UFO incident while stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in 1967. And that is just the beginning of Robert Salas's story. Please join us again next week here on Meanwhile Here on Earth. Kathleen, I love you. I thank you. Please send my love to Charlie, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.